was noontime today in the center of Beijing when a man walked to the middle of the Avenue of Eternal Peace,
Well, all right. Welcome back to the Survival and Basic Badass Podcast, Kevin and Chuck. Well, today we're back on Russia. It's funny. We always talk about the different threats and things that are going on in the world. And I got to say, Russia seems to be a recurring theme.
Yeah, they show up a lot, don't they?
They do. So we're actually going to kind of dig into, there's big scandals coming out now about Russian election interference, election meddling, that kind of thing. It's funny because I feel like they want you to think that it's really because, you know, conservatives are out there, I don't know, trying to steal elections. And that's what I think. It's maybe even, I would go as far as to say is shift the blame. Look over here. The Republicans are cheating. And then they can keep cheating over here. Maybe they're all cheating. I don't really know. What I do know is the Russians. I know we mentioned the last couple of weeks. We said, you know, that they seem to have like pro-Trump kind of things and that kind of stuff. It was actually like we were a little bit ahead of the curve, Kevin. I think you were a little on it because
I mean, that news story had come out right before we started the podcast.
Like that day, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny because we had already prepared, but so then this kind of broke. We had talked about that they seem to be like pro-Trump kind of things, but really what ended up being paid for and whatever was really a big anti-Ukraine war kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That we need to stop funding and that kind of stuff. That's really where it dug into. But the big scandal is all these podcasters and media, social media people, YouTube and just influencers on, you know, TikTok and Facebook and all this other stuff, are getting paid like crazy for promoting stuff, and we're not.
We're not getting jack shit.
That's the story. I mean, we are getting like a little bit.
Yeah, but we're not getting like Tim Pool money.
Like,
you know,
it covers the internet bill, but that's about where we're at.
Barely.
It's funny because like between paying for hosting and the internet bill, it kind of is like a wash with the advertising. It's like, well, yeah, but it's, you know, so you're like, yeah, it makes money, kind of. Not really. It's like my wife's farm makes money.
Mm-hmm.
You know how farmers make money? Same thing.
Right.
That's how the Survival and Basic Badass podcast is making money.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we do have a lot of views and we're actually kicking ass. So I think we got to kind of dig down into that and find out why we're not getting bigger advertisers and things going on. So anyway, a listener, Greg, too, we had decided to do this episode. And then one of the listeners was like, hey, you know, have you seen this Russia thing? And sent me over to the Andy McCarthy podcast and some other stuff. And I was like, yeah, I better dig deep into this. And Kevin already had some ideas going. So, all right. So here's what you missed. Here's what's going on. CBS News. I don't even know if they were the ones to break it. Do you know who broke it, Kevin? You saw it on Newsweek.
Well, I mean, it came out from the Justice Department.
Oh, the Justice Department.
So basically went to all the...
Gotcha. Yeah. And I feel like when they did, it was about... I think it was about influencing the election. I think the Justice Department was trying to create a political thing. Because here's why I say that. You act like, oh, well, Chuck, that's kind of conspiracy, like the Justice Department is independent and whatever. But they didn't accuse anybody who they were going to prosecute.
Right.
And you're like, well, if you're not going to do anything.
Oh, no, they indicted 3 people already.
Yeah, 3 people who are not here, though.
No, they're here. They're not Americans. They're here. And they didn't register as Russian agents, which you have to do legally, which is a requirement. Also, Russia Today was sanctioned after they invaded Ukraine.
Yes.
In the U.S., let's see, the entire so according to Russia Today, after they were sanctioned, he said the editor-in-chief said an entire empire of covert projects designed to shape public opinion in Western audiences. Like that's their thing. It's like multiple facets to influence, Western audiences.
Now, mind you, these are foreigners, and I understand that. But isn't that how a campaign works? Like, isn't that what people do? And I understand the Russia has their agenda, but doesn't like Planned Parenthood have their agenda and push whatever? Doesn't
Right, but if you're working
NRA,
for a different country,
right?
You have to register.
I understand that, and
Right.
I'm with you. But I'm just saying they act like, oh, this is the big change.
Mm.
But it's not like George Soros is like, oh, hey, I just want to disclose that, it's me. And people are like, yeah, but I feel so deceived. It was Russia.
Mhm.
Were you though? Like, did you not like see any of that coming? So anyway, the story is, all right, this one's from CBS News. The company is not named in the indictment. Prosecutors said that it describes itself as a network of heterodox.
Yeah.
What the hell is that? Commentator.
That means divisive.
See, big college words that I don't even.
Mhm.
That's probably why we don't have the sponsors. That's my guess, right? So commentators that focus on Western political and cultural issues and features 6 commentators as its talent. Tenet Media uses the same phrase in its description on its website. I feel like they wanted somebody to find that, the Department of Justice.
Mhm.
But they,
Who
why would
was?
you use those weird words if not?
Mhm.
I mean, I know who uses that word heterodox in a sentence.
I don't know. I mean, I went on the Tenet Media website there, and it's like that is definitely that's why I know what the word means, because I had to look it up when I read it earlier.
Oh, that's not something you use around coffee in the morning?
No.
You don't say to the wife? No. Hey, Chuck and I are going to go be a heterodox of inspiration for people here. Anyway, so Tenet Media uses the same phrase in its description on its website, and other details seem to align. But not only that, the speakers and influencers that are on Tenet Media, 3 of them came forward and said, hey, it's us. They're talking to us. So, right. I mean, it kind of let the cat out of the bag. And I know Tim Pool had said in an interview that he said that they wanted him to willingly talk to, the Justice Department about something. I know I sure as hell wouldn't do that without a lawyer present, but I probably wouldn't even do it if it was voluntary. I'd be like, nah.
Yeah.
Like, you want to help them. You don't want to like help Russia undermine the country. Like, you don't want to be that guy. Mm-hmm. But on the flip side, I feel like just showing up, you could say anything that could get you into trouble.
Right. Like, I mean, anything you say, and they'll tell you that, like, anytime you're doing an interview with any, Justice Department people, any police officers, FBI agents, they'll tell you your Miranda rights, just so that when you fuck up, you knew you could get a lawyer. Like, we told you could get a lawyer and you didn't, and now you're going to prison because it will be used against you in a court of law. It's right in there. You know what I mean?
Now, I didn't pull up any pictures of Tim Pool or anything, but he's the guy who you always see him doing that. He's like Joe Rogan, with the headset sitting there doing an interview, and he wears that black watch cap.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but so he's somebody who like shows up in my feed fairly often, but not somebody I really was paying a lot of attention to or knew who he was, just because I don't know. I didn't know. And I guess he has a podcast that people listen to, I guess.
There is a podcast, yeah.
And I mean, I say that, like, obviously I'm sure he gets a lot more downloads than we do. That's not my point. My point is that, like, it's not something in my radar, right? Turns out there's a lot of podcasts that are really famous that I have no idea even exist. It just,
yeah. I'd be honest with you. I don't listen to that many podcasts.
I mean, I'm not even watching the Jersey Shore, so I'm so out of touch that I don't even know what's going on. That's all I can tell you. Anyway, so basically what were they? How were they trying to influence it, Kevin? Like, what were they even saying that? Like, what happened? What was the deal?
Right. Well, so it according to these podcasters, let me just run through the list real quick, and maybe you guys recognize some of them, maybe you don't. Dave Rubin, Benny Johnson, Lauren Southern, Matt Christensen, and Taylor Hansen. Those are the six podcasters that are signed up with.
If you had told me all those names, I would tell you I've never heard of any of them.
Yeah, Dave Rubin, I'm familiar with.
Do you? I didn't even know who Tim Pool was, except when I like saw a video and a picture of him. I was like, oh, I've seen that guy. Yeah, I know who that is. Like, so it's like that. They said that, I mean, this guy, they said 16 million views the one guy gets, 8.7 million for another guy, 2.4 million followers. So these are big influencers, right? Compared to my 1,000 views on YouTube or whatever. I mean, not views, subscribers. They sound pretty impressive. Because I'm not really that impressive on YouTube. YouTube isn't been my world. I'm trying to step up those games. That's why you guys need to like and subscribe. I'm just saying, right?
Yeah, but I feel like podcasts are a lot better because we can talk about whatever we want, and half of our YouTube
shut it down.
Half of our YouTube videos get yanked.
They get yanked. We have to edit out half of it. It's kind of ridiculous. So that's it. That's why we've always focused on, the podcast. That's what I'm going to tell myself to feel better about, not getting. But basically, the Tim Pool, I guess, was paid $400,000 a month plus $100,000 signing bonus, and they were required to make 4 videos a week.
A month.
A month. No, a week is what
I was told.
Okay, a week. They were paid the $400,000 a month. So it was $100,000 a week is what they were getting paid. Tim was. I don't know about the rest of them. And that's what I saw, on the interwebs there. But bottom line is, all right, so they're making all this money. I saw all these like crazy left-leaning I want to say news outlets, but they weren't like real news outlets. Like they were like, I don't know, Breaking Point, I think was one of them, and all this other stuff. And they acted all smug and dignified and like, we would never take money from anybody to advertise. Just, it's ridiculous for a media person to take advertising
to get paid to do their,
yeah, that doesn't sound right to me. But now, again, we're not, because they kept defining themselves as like respectable media. And I don't know if I looked at Tim Pool and was like, oh, this guy's like respectable media.
Yeah.
Me and Kevin were talking before the show, and he's like, he's been in the business for a long time. That's correct. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, he's legitimately a journalist. It's not, he does a lot of like opinion pieces on his podcast, but he's, he has been involved in actual journalism in the past.
Right. I mean, that's like Sean Hannity. It's an opinion. Rush Limbaugh. It's an opinion. Now, hopefully these guys are presenting facts and here's my take on the facts.
Right.
But you guys are really going to sit there and tell me with a straight face that CNN doesn't put out opinions on the regular news shows? You're telling me that Fox News doesn't put out opinions on their news shows? I would beg to differ.
Have you ever seen the show Morning Joe? It's on in the morning.
Scarborough,
Joe Scarborough on MSNBC.
And Mika Brzezinski.
Yeah, whatever her name is. Whatever though. It's all opinion.
Her dad was a big to-do, I guess. Well, they love Joe Scarborough because he was a Republican, like congressman or something at some point. And they're like, see, a Republican hates the Republicans. And I'm like,
he's not really a Republican now.
Again, that's one of those, you're going to give me a paycheck? I can say whatever you want.
I can have whatever opinions you want to have.
That I feel like, a lot of Republicans are really, there isn't much difference between a Republican and a Democrat in their heart.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like I see a lot of these assholes are really like, they put their party above their country. You know what I mean? Like, shitty. That's shitty. You know, if you're the head of the Republican Party, that's fair. If you're the head of the Democratic Party, that's a reasonable thing to do. But if you're just a politician that's a Republican, you should really be putting your country first.
Yeah. Kevin, I see that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So, yeah, so they basically were paying these guys, I think it was around $10 million is what they paid all these guys so far total. And somebody, my wife said, I was talking to her about it. She said, that's ridiculous. That's way too much money. Why would they spend that much money? Well, how much does it cost for a fighter jet for Russia? You know, how much money does it cost, when a Patriot missile that the United States sent over there shoots down one of their jets? That costs a lot more than $10 million,
Right.
So it's not really like money poorly spent. It's well spent.
That's it. And dude, you know what? They probably just print that shit. Oh, we'll just, I mean, because that's what our government does. We're like, just print another.
Yeah, and if inflation is getting pretty out of hand in Russia right now. So apparently that is what they're doing.
They're like, hey, we'll just get, because that money tomorrow is only worth $5 million here. So whatever. It's
got to spend it now.
Spend it while you got it. That's what I say. That's the thing is, people, if you can really influence something, it's worth it. Now, again, so it creates a distrust for the Ukraine war. Let's talk about that for a minute or two. Like early on, we did some episodes that were, Kevin was more anti than I was, but we were reasonably open to the Ukraine war. The big thing that I always notice is America doesn't have the staying power or the will for any kind of war. We have let's go do a strike, kick ass, and then we're done with it. If we're not going to do that, we have no follow through whatsoever. I don't know if you guys remember Vietnam. They probably wiped that out of the textbooks.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think they talk about that in school anymore. But I mean, we did have several 20-year wars in Afghanistan and Iraq that are still. They're winding down. We're still in Iraq, right?
Right. Well, no. Kamala says no. We're not anywhere right now. We're completely returned. Right. But that's the thing. We have no willpower, right? I know you're saying, well, as an individual, I do. I'm very, I'm hard. I fight for the Second Amendment every morning. I wake up and piss bullets, and that I get that. I mean, I understand you guys are hardcore because I'm hardcore. I get it. We're all in but as far as the country as a whole, we're not really down for sticking with a war. But, I'll give that caveat. I was kind of like, all right, the way they're presenting it, I see why we would defend it. But I should have kind of given it a little more thought. And I think I kind of did mention that we don't always have staying power in the beginning. But, I think that may have come out at some point. But either way, it doesn't matter. Bottom line is, I understand I kind of supported it. And now I'm like, all right, this is just bullshit. We're just throwing money for nothing. Now, here's the thing. I will say there's a quote from Putin that's a little crazy. Check this out. Putin said, and to be honest, this one statement on its own, I think is very 100% accurate and I agree with. Does not mean I support Putin. I'm going to have to get a paycheck for that. I'm just saying, if you guys if you wanted me to be like, Putin's 100% right here and there's no caveat, I need $100,000. I'm just saying, you know what to do, right? Email me, we'll work something out. But Putin said, if Ukraine fires NATO weapons into Russian territory, he would consider the U.S. and NATO directly involved and therefore at war with Russia. And to be honest, if you went and gave Iran nuclear missiles and said, hey, I know you guys are going to use these to shoot into the U.S. I know that. I'm okay with it, but, I wash my hands of it. I would be pissed. I would be like, wait a minute. That's an act of war. Now, I know our current cowards in the government might be like, well, I don't think they really meant it. They're kind of big and scary. That looks like an expensive war. Not sure we want to do that. That might actually hurt me. But
yeah, I mean, that
where
is what I think what would happen. We wouldn't get involved with we'd say a lot of crazy shit. Like
Right.
Putin says a lot of
That was
crazy shit.
wrong. You
But
guys
just like Putin,
bad.
we wouldn't do jack shit about it. And I don't think he's gonna do a goddamn thing.
But that is what he said.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you don't want to put a dog in a corner, and see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, I fully support going to war with Russia just because I feel like we've been getting real fucking soft in this country.
We are getting soft. We need a little something to toughen people up.
Yeah. Now, we're not getting paid by Russia. Apparently, we have not said enough good shit about Russia, and maybe we can
step up our game.
Yeah, maybe we could change our tune. But what about Iran? So,
are we getting paid by Iran?
We're not getting paid by Iran either.
Okay. But we're open.
Yeah. So, Iran's been running hack and leak spear phishing campaigns in retaliation of former president's actions while he was in office against the Tehran regime, including the assassination of General Soleimani. You remember that guy?
Yep.
Yeah. So what they've been doing is sending emails with downloads, links that you can click to people in his campaign. And then if you click this link, it basically is a worm and it, collects data and sends it back. So they got a few of Trump's election campaign information.
Well, luckily nobody's ever hacked the DNC servers, so that's good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Iran basically got both of them.
Oh.
Iran got the Democrats and the Republicans. They tried to actually sell stuff to the Democrats, but they said that most of those emails actually went to spam and nobody even saw them. So they didn't really even get the offer to buy the shit.
Whenever I watch like the hacker movies, they always take like a bunch of USB drives and just throw them in the parking lot outside. And people are like, "Oh, I wonder what's on here," and they go check it out, and it just that's maybe a thing.
Yeah. So I mean, if Iran wanted to sponsor this podcast, we could work something out, $100,000 a month, and I wouldn't even talk about that stuff that we just talked about. No,
you wouldn't
even bring it up again.
How much, Kevin? What's your price to not say that Xi looks like Winnie the Pooh?
Well, I mean, honestly, that's been a long-running thing for me. I don't know that I could put a price on not being able to talk about that anymore. Yeah, I mean, I feel like at this point we've shit on China so much
that's out the window.
If we stopped shitting on China, it would be very obvious to anybody that listens to the podcast.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe that's what they want. It's just not that we completely sell out and go the other way, but what if we just back off a little bit?
Mm-hmm. Well,
in the beginning, I didn't have to bring it up. I didn't have to mention Winnie the Pooh in this episode.
We didn't have to talk about it at all.
For 10 grand, I could have dropped that whole line of conversation right there.
So in the beginning of April, the New York Times reported that covert Chinese accounts are masquerading online as American supporters of former President Trump, promoting conspiracy theories, stoking domestic divisions, and attacking President Biden ahead of the election in November. That seems strange to me because I always thought that China was anti-Trump and pro-Biden. So I don't know.
Because Trump did put all those tariffs on China.
Right. He really didn't treat China very well. But China is primarily focusing on Canada for some reason. Apparently, they're easier for them to get involved there.
Well, they're already socialists, so it kind of works.
Yeah, it kind of works out with them. You know what I mean? So, I mean, China, let me know, bro. Send me a check and we'll see what we can work out.
Hey, that's it. Price is right. The flight's tonight is all I'm saying.
That's right. But I mean, I feel like a lot of the election interference is, we've got it going like for both sides. So it kind of balances out. You know what I mean? Honestly, we've got people, foreign countries supporting Biden and Harris, and we've got, people supporting Trump and kind of balances out.
Yeah. Now, a little bit more with the payoffs to like Tenant Media and all that. So they actually created a bunch of fake websites. They took down, I think they said at least 11 websites.
Mm-hmm.
What they were was it would be like Fox News .cx was one of them.
Right.
One of them was for the Washington Post, and it would kind of mirror it,
Right.
but it would have like fake stories.
Right.
And so that was kind of cool. It went through and
so you'd follow a link and you'd think you'd be reading, the Washington Times or Washington Post. And
yeah, exactly. And the thing is, we kind of put them in a corner because, like, as you mentioned earlier in the episode, when the war kind of started, we actually shut down Russia Today, right? Or it was just called RT. It wasn't Russia Today anymore. It was RT. And remember, that was like, you were like, well, yeah, but these are the real stories that our fake media wouldn't tell us. Remember, that's how it was kind of the theme that they built up. And according to the Kremlin, Russia's just trying to tell the truth.
Right.
So, hey, it's funny because it was called Operation Doppelganger.
Yeah.
And like I said,
and we mentioned that last week.
Yeah. Now, believe it or not, it's not just because of evil Trump that we're having this problem. This is going on in the EU as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Russia's been targeting Germany, France, and Poland, and it's one against the European Union, like trying to discourage that whole thing, break it up.
Right.
And two, it's also again about the Ukraine war there and having, the European Union support for it.
Mm-hmm.
And very anti. So a lot of this stuff is going on. Now, Russia Today or RT, Meta banned all Russia from all platforms. Right. Now, what's weird is though, Meta, who owns Facebook and a ton, Instagram, all that crap. But what's crazy is they had it where Russia said, we're banning all Facebook and Instagram in Russia. We don't want that shit here.
Mm-hmm.
And then Meta came out and said, we're banning Russia from all Meta, Facebook, and Instagram. And you're like, well, wait a minute. Like it kind of was already a thing. Right. So it's kind of a weird retaliation thing. Russia Today, RT, it's funny because the broadcasters would actually say, they're saying that we're being influenced by the Kremlin. And the reporter was like, we only answer to the Kremlin. Every story we put out is approved by the Kremlin.
Right.
Or we don't put it out. You're an idiot if you think otherwise.
Right.
Because our government, we're in line. That this is
right. The government runs RT.
Yeah. And you're an idiot if you think otherwise. And that's what they were saying on their channel, So it was kind of like, how would you know, But again, now mind you, these guys, why it became a crime was they didn't disclose that they were Russian agents. And that's,
right.
That's where Kevin's like, hey, but that's where it was a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But what you got to remember is none of these guys at Tenant Media believed that they were working for Russia, or at least that's what they're saying.
Yeah.
And I believe them.
They all say that they don't know. And even the Justice Department said that it wasn't obvious. This was a hidden This was a hidden thing. Right.
One of the girls, actually the wife, remember they say it was a couple and they're like not named, but somehow everybody knows their names.
Mm-hmm.
The girl worked at Blaze Media, which is Glenn Beck's whole news thing.
Mm-hmm.
But again, does that make you look negative at Glenn Beck's thing? No, it's not.
Right.
How hard? Oh, I got in. I infiltrated.
Well, right. Yeah, the thing that's not clear to me is if she is actually Russian or actually an American that's working for Russians.
Right.
Right. And what's the price? I mean, what is the price for? I mean, ultimately, what is the price for betraying your country in whatever format you're doing that?
You're 100%.
How much does it cost me to Because I mean, I remember a FBI agent maybe 10 years ago
saying how cheap.
He got arrested because he was leaking information to Russia, and he like did it for $200,000 in diamonds. Like $200,000. That's not a lot of money, dude. That's not like move to Brazil and
look off for like 10 grand.
Yeah.
And I'm like, 10 grand? Like, really? Now, but here's the thing, right? So the problem is that all the things that I would be willing to say for Russia or whatever are things that I'm saying anyway. And that's the problem.
Right.
And I think that's the problem with these guys, right? Because
they were already saying these things.
Russia is,
that's why they got hired.
Right. Russia's paying Tim Pool to be anti-Ukraine war. We're not getting paid by Russia, and we're anti-Ukraine war. Or I am. I don't want to speak for you and put words in your mouth.
Well, it's not really fair.
Now, should Russia have moved in and attacked Ukraine? No. Is Russia 100% wrong? Yes. I can say that all day long. I have no problem with that. Is Russia an evil, scary monster? I'm just saying we're broke as shit, and maybe we shouldn't be spending money that we don't have. And why are we the only ones footing the bill all the time for bullshit? And Zelensky maybe is not the best at appropriating the money to the appropriate sources all the time. That's what I'm saying. And I'm saying I don't like to be wasteful. I'm against government waste. Now, by default, that puts the Ukraine war at odds with me. Do I think Russia's fucked up and it's slimy as shit to go fuck with people and invade? No. And America used to be a force for good, but if we were that, we could just kind of flex our muscles and be like, hey, you don't knock that shit off, we're going to shut you down. And that would be the end of it. But we're not that anymore. You know, we're kind of a little cowardly as a country and I'm speaking of the government, right? I mean, obviously red-blooded Americans in our heart were like, fuck you, kill them. I'm good. I'm that guy, right? I'm down. We'll send our boys over and kick ass, but I don't want to send our boys over and kick ass if we're not going to follow through. Nobody wants a Vietnam. You know, nobody wants hey, you got to go. But if you accidentally shoot a civilian or whatever, no, I'm talking about rolling through and like fucking yield, motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? That's where I'm at.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that really is how you should be fighting war. I mean, any American war should be fought total war or not at all.
Right. Yeah. Commit or don't, you know, shit or get off the pot. Right. That's the whole thing that it comes down to. And maybe that's where I get into trouble. But, you know, maybe half of you just like dropped off and we're like, hey, I can't get behind Chuck. He's crazy. But, you know, that's where we're at is, you know, hey, let's do it or don't, you know, and we don't have money for bullshit. We don't have money to just pay for everybody. That's kind of the immigration thing. You know, we want to be open and be like, yeah. And I'm like, cool, legally, but we can't pay for everybody's shit when you come here. You know, Venezuela is unloading their prisoners and their gangs and be like, yeah, go to America. We don't want to pay for you anymore. And we're like, hey, here's your free debit card. What the fuck is that? Like, why? We have people here, veterans can't get, you know, health care, all this stuff. And we're like, yeah, you know, you guys, sucks to be you. You know, we can't help you. There's no money. There's no money for you. But for all this other stuff, that's ridiculous, right? And I feel like the system gets overwhelmed and then we're like, shut down, stop everything. And it kind of puts us in this position where you're like, I can't be charitable because now, are we being charitable when we're just like dumping these people into a town and, hey, you got nothing? Or, you know, there's one of two scenarios happening. Either we're giving them a ton of money and that's insane, or we're not giving them any money and they feel like they have to go and rob a Walmart or whatever and destroy it. But, or take over an apartment complex because they can't live. I don't know what's happening. It's one or the other, right? Either we're giving them money or we're not giving them money. And either scenario, it's not ending well.
Right.
I do see a lot of stuff on social media. Again, it could have been Russia. I don't even know. But I see pictures of Walmarts like Targets with crap strewn all about the parking lot and cars smashed and videos of people like driving around trying to hit people in cars and weird things. Could it have been staged in Russia? I guess it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
They could have gone to Target in Russia. I don't know if there's one there.
Well, that's it. It used to be, you could be discerning and research, research stories that you read and confirm or deny whether or not something is accurate.
Yeah.
But no matter what you look up, make something up in your head and type that into Google, and you'll find a news story that's saying that that's happening. Right. Whether it is or not.
It's not. And that's the thing. And you find both sides of the argument. And it's so easy to Photoshop things or take things out of context, right? Oh, look, Kamala Harris just said this. Well, that's really from her last campaign. And everybody knows you're a completely different person 4 years from now.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't really know that. I think that your core is kind of your core. But, if you're a spineless weasel, it probably does change over 4 years.
Change your opinion every day.
Yeah, you could wake up and be like, oh, I did get that check in the mail today. And this is what I'm about. So, hey, you do you, right? I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like we're basically shopping around right now with this podcast. We're shopping around, looking for some new sponsors. And I, for one, I think that we should be getting some money from Boeing.
Yes.
Joshua Dean and John Barnett were not, in fact, assassinated by Boeing for being whistleblowers.
All right. So what you guys want to do is you want to send that check to Jaeger Tactical. All right. And then
we'll get it straightened out. Yeah.
Get it worked out. Send us a check. We'll work it out.
I mean, it definitely does, it does seem, until I get that check, it does seem that
there is some
Boeing has been assassinating people that are talking bad about it.
But you could easily be convinced. Maybe they send you a fact sheet.
Right.
Along with that check stapled to it.
And we might things that I could know about and then tell people.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
That's
it. I mean, we're always, I think though, we're just about to reach out to sponsors and now they're going to be like, I don't know if that guy's.
Well, I've got a new one here that I think that,
what do you got?
DuPont Chemical, better living through chemistry.
Yeah. Who doesn't like chemistry?
Yeah. They invest about $10 million. Now, I should say that you can't actually find an actual number of how much they actually spend on advertising. It's not disclosed. But from what I gather, it's about $10 million, a little bit of more than $10 million a year. They make about $12 to $15 billion a year. DuPont Chemical. Now, DuPont Chemical actually were creating these great line of products. They were able to come up with a chemical that they made. It's called PFOA or C8, which is a chain that has 8 carbon molecules, carbon atoms, and then a fluoride atom.
Who doesn't like fluoride? I mean, we're made of carbon, Kevin.
Yeah,
this
is great stuff. This is great stuff. So it helped. It's really great at waterproofing. So they're putting it out on like clothes, rain boots, carpets, rugs. The carpets and the rugs that your kids crawl around on.
Yeah.
Teflon that you cook your food in.
Yeah, I'll put my eggs in there.
Yep, all that sort of stuff. Now, this PFOA, they knew it caused like severe problems with people, like real bad shit. And we've never talked about this on this podcast. We never even talked about PFOAs at all. And I don't know why they haven't paid us. So this PFOA, it's what they call a forever chemical. It lasts forever. It doesn't break down on its own. 2,000 or 3,000 years it takes for these chemicals to actually break down. And since they knew it was dangerous. The Department of Health, Department of Environmental Conservation, they didn't know that though, because they didn't really know it existed or to test for it. So since they didn't know, it was legal. It was perfectly legal for DuPont to dump that wherever they wanted to. It's infected most water sources in the United States. And it causes liver disease, high cholesterol, birth defects, testicular cancer, thyroid disease, low birth rates, a lot of great stuff.
I don't even
it does
want
for
most
us.
of those though.
It's free. Like you didn't even have to buy these products, and 96% of
you
Americans
got the benefits anyway.
Yeah, 96% of Americans have detectable levels in their blood, and it was free. You got this for free from them. You know what I mean? You already have it. You don't even have to go out and buy this stuff. You don't have to ingest it. It's already in your blood, causing massive health problems for you. And there's no safe level. And yes, so they ended up $1.18 billion settlement that you didn't get any money of. Like, that didn't go to you.
Well,
so
the government probably needed money, right?
Well, I mean, some people that ended up dying from these chemicals.
Just gotta die.
They got $400. So that's good. That's good. So DuPont's still in business and still making tons of money, and nothing really happened to him.
You know who we did talk about?
We never talked about this, and DuPont never sent us any money.
You know who we did talk about and maybe should have sent us a preemptive check was Bayer Aspirin. The one where they went around and infected everybody with AIDS because, whatever.
Yeah, because whatever.
Saying, that was the thing. Just look that up if you're doubting me on that one. It was like 20,000 people, but that's kind of a lot of people. I mean, if you really think, like in the scheme of things, not a lot.
Yeah.
They made a blood thinner and they were like, well, somebody who was working on it had AIDS and somehow it got in there, or we used them to
produce some of that
things. And we're like, we know it's kind of sketchy, but we'll send it out anyway because it probably won't be that bad. And don't worry, the people weren't American. Oh, see, they weren't American, Kevin. So it didn't really.
Yeah, no, fuck those people.
They
right?
even people at that point.
Yeah. Now, Slowburn had a good point. We need to have some shell companies between us so we have plausible deniability. That's how Tenet did it. They were getting their money from a company in Turkey. So, I think that's how we need to work it out, is that, we have to make a company. It's money laundering, and we talked about money laundering on this podcast. It's really easy to do.
Yeah. Okay.
It's super easy. Yeah. So, these are just some ideas out there of any company that's listening to us that they could, help sponsor our podcast.
All right, Kevin, you realize that you pretty much completely ruined any chance of us ever getting a sponsor again, because now they're going to be like,
well, I'll be fair, DuPont never was sending us money anyway, and I think that's bullshit, because like I said, we never even talked about this before. We haven't talked about this, all the years we've been doing this podcast. We never talked about DuPont and their poisoning of everybody in the United States with chemicals that they can't get rid of and things they can't cure.
There you have it. So I don't know. That's all I got, man. We pretty much ruined any chance of a sponsorship here on the Survival and Basic Badass podcast. So I'm just saying. Anyway, you guys have show ideas, questions, concerns, email us at preppingbadass@gmail.com. I will say that we are I'm going to be at Prepper Camp next week. It's like right around the corner, but I hate to even plug it because they've already sold out. It's like, they were like, how many more people can we fit in there?
Yeah.
None.
So
many. It's one of those things. And my guess is that it sold out because I'm there. Like,
absolutely.
They don't use the word, but I would use the word like keynote speaker. They didn't say that. I'm
Big draw.
But why the people are coming, right?
Yeah, I'm curious as to how many people heard about it from this podcast and are planning on going. I don't know.
comments, welcome. Questions, concerns, thoughts, ideas, you can, reach out to us. Anyway, with that.
Also, if you guys get a chance, rate and review the podcast. Either, where you listen to the podcast or on YouTube someplace. Make some comments, give us some positive reviews. If you hate us, tell us you hate us, but still give us the 5-star rating.
Right. 5-star rating, and then tell us what you don't like or what you do like. It's okay to say nice things. Just more about me than Kevin.
Mm-hmm. I kind of thrive on that.
Kevin,
on that, people shitting on me.
What there was some movie way back in the day where he's like, the guy's like feeding on the hate and he's like, more, keep it. Was it Star Wars? Was it the Emperor?
Oh yeah, there you go.
It was. Yeah. It was the Emperor in one of the I say original Star Wars, one of the first 3. And he's like, Luke is like, the more he's like,
let the hate flow.
He's like, yeah, let it flow through you.
Yeah, maybe I'm some sort of a Sith Lord. I don't know, but I do kind of feed on that shit.
Yeah, I'm not nerdy enough to know the full details, but I'm sure one of you can help us out in the comments. Anyway, you guys are awesome. We appreciate you sticking around. And like I said, things you want to hear about, maybe we'll lay off Russia for a week or two because,
we'll see if those checks come in or not.
That's what I'm saying. Just send us a check and it'll be the things you don't see that we're getting paid for. How about that?
There you go. There you go.
Every time we don't do an episode about China or Russia every week, you'll be like, I bet you they got a check this week.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying, that could be on the table. We could completely forget that anywhere outside the U.S. exists. I mean, hey, if New York sent me a big enough check, I could forget New York exists.
That's right. That's right. Ghostbusters 2.
Yep. Ghostbusters 2. Yeah. Anyway, with that, I would say stay safe and we'll talk to you guys next week. Oh, hang on. Wait, I got to do it even better. I got the end here.